Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Holly Matthews. I'm a former TV actress. I'm a self-development coach, the founder of the Happy Me Project, and I'm a mom of 2 girls. And the last fact is very important for this particular video. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to deal with a child's temper tantrum. Not a toddler, not a little tiny person, a tween. My children are 10 and 8, primary school age children. How do we deal with their big grown-up children temper tantrums? Number 1, the first thing to remember is when your child is going through this kind of temper tantrum, anger, when they're in that space, that they are experiencing big emotions. And at the age that they're at, they don't know how to deal with this stuff. They don't. It's just stuff and it's big. And we've been there, right? We've all felt those kind of impulses to just react. At that age, they don't understand how else to do that. They haven't quite yet mastered the art of navigating this stuff. Obviously, some people never do. But at this age, they don't know how to deal with it. And when they're screaming their stuff at you, and that will be different for every child, of course, but sometimes they will say things that are really awful and your adult ears will be affronted and taken aback. And I've heard myself say to my children, I've heard myself say, not another person on this planet would get to speak to me like that, and yet here you are displaying all of this to me. And can I also caveat this whole conversation by saying there is 0 judgment from me when it comes to parenting. I am not sitting here on some pedestal like a parenting guru, dishing out. This is advice purely through having learned this stuff myself, being in the world that I'm in the self-development world, and things that I found that have helped even just to ease the emotional side of being a parent, because it's not easy, okay? So I'm not coming at this from a place. I know that when you're a parent, you get advertised all kinds of things online about how you can be a more empowered parent. And I'm just going to say that you have to work it out yourself, but we can find little bits of info here and there that might just be beneficial and just some food for thought, right? But please don't ever think I'm sitting here as the pinnacle of parental, look at me, I'm above everybody else, I'm excellent at the parenting. No, I'm failing every day and just doing my best, just like you guys are. So this is just to put this out here. But when I found myself being affronted by my children's behavior at times and having to really check myself. Remember, I'm not dealing with an adult with a brain that is fully formed and has life experience. I'm dealing with a child who has big emotions and they just don't know where to send them. And actually, we as parents are a safe space to send those emotions. It isn't personal. It's just not knowing how to deal with it. Number 2, remember that while your child is having this tantrum, you are also having big emotions. You, as a grown adult who has a brain that is fully formed and has life experience, you are also feeling big emotions. And even with me saying, don't be affronted, don't be upset, it's not personal to you, it's all coming from the child. That doesn't mean that in the moment that you're in this moment of carnage, it doesn't mean that you won't have all your own pain and emotions, because you are a human being. So I want you to acknowledge that it's okay to have those emotions. It's what we do next with them that really counts. But you are not going to be some passive person without any feeling, void of emotions robot. You're not going to be that. Sometimes your child is going to say something on the wrong day when you're not feeling your best self, and it's going to sting, and you're going to cry, or you're going to be upset, or you're going to react in the wrong way. So you have to understand that your child is having these big emotions. You are having these big emotions. And yes, it is up to us as the adults to manage our own better because we have more life experience than they. However, you're not always going to get that right. So please be kind to yourself and acknowledge that this is a two-way street, and there's a lot going on there, and you too will also feel big stuff. Number 3, a tip that I learned off a counsellor who was working with my children. My children, for those that don't know, have been through some big grief and are going through big grief. And so there has been extra help needed on occasions. And one of the tips that I found was really useful is that when your children are in a real anger space, They might want to throw things, stamp their feet, all the stuff that children do. And sometimes as adults we would like to do, but actually we try and often hold ourselves back because we're supposed to be adults. But children are just honest with how they feel and they react accordingly. So when your child is in that space, trying to find ways rather than going against what's happening, because when your child's in that meltdown, you're not going to get a rational conversation out of them, no matter how much you try. And believe me, I've tried. You're not going to get that. What you can do is match them in their moment. If they're throwing things, how about you throw things? Try and find a better way of, things that they're throwing. If they're throwing something hard that could hurt somebody, maybe you go, why don't we do throw things? Why don't we go in the garden and we throw a ball? Why don't we throw these teddies at the floor? Why don't we? Because you can see if they're in that meltdown moment that they've got an aggression or a something or a fury that they need to get out. There needs to be a space for it. I've talked on here before about how I've let my children punch into pillows, jump up and down, go onto a trampoline, something to get it out. It has to come from the children, and it often has, some of those things have to come from the children. So the trampoline stuff and things, those don't always work. If I suggest that in the midst of a meltdown, they're going to go, no, I'm not going to do that. So you can sometimes have those as options that you discuss when they're calm, and they will take the lead on that. I would suggest that for most kids, if in the midst of it you say, go and jump on a trampoline, they might not, but you can test it out with your child. It wouldn't work with mine, but it does work if they know it beforehand and know it's an option. They will sometimes prompt it by saying, I want to go and punch a pillow, I want to go and scream into a pillow. That will be prompted by them, but from them knowing that it's an option. But you can match them. You can get on the floor. You can kick and scream and do your own thing. And actually, sometimes when they see an adult do that, it snaps them out of it, or it makes them laugh. And then they come out of it, and actually you might quite like stamping your feet in the moment, or you might quite like throwing some teddies around because you probably feel the same way because you're also having big emotions. Something to try. Match what's going on for them. Get on the floor. Be there in that with them in that moment. Number 4. Shift your expectations. Expectations are the killer in everything. When we have these expectations of a situation or how things are going to go and they don't work out, that's often the hardest, most challenging thing that we face in our lives. Expectation versus reality. And so when it comes, if your child's in the midst of a meltdown and you're in it, and maybe you have to go somewhere, maybe time-wise you should be doing a certain thing, sometimes we have to take a moment and just mentally shift our expectation of this moment. And we have to think, okay, what is the best thing I can do in this moment? I can fight what's going on. I can shout. I can scream. I can, storm off. I don't know. You can do all of those things, and it will do nothing in reality. If anything, it will probably just fuel it. What you can do though is when you mentally shift your expectation in your mind and you just think, this is not going to happen. We're not going to get out on time. Tea time is going to be slightly different to I was expecting. Bedtime's going to be later. Whenever the time. When you shift the expectation, it actually gives you space to breathe, because no longer are you trying to go, but this is still going to happen. We're going to have to do this and it has to happen this way. And you can blatantly see it's not going to. That's actually more of a conflict in your own mind than just letting go of it. Okay, bedtime's going to be later. What's the worst that can happen with that? Okay, it's annoying, but it's not going to really be that big a deal. Okay, we're going to be late for the thing that we're supposed to be going to. Okay, it's not the end of the world. It will feel better. It will help you to move through it, and you can be frustrated about that, the being late or whatever later on. But in this moment, the most important thing is that you actually navigate through this as a mom and a child, that you navigate your own emotions, that you help them get through theirs, and that you don't spoil your relationship with them essentially by going into all the more negative behavior. Number 5, validate their feelings. Let them know that it's okay to be annoyed. Let them know that it's okay that they feel sad and frustrated, and you can see their frustration. Tell them that with your words. And once they are calming down, you can also begin to explain to them how it feels from your perspective. That won't happen necessarily in the midst of it. It won't land. They'll just be too cross or they'll be too frustrated. But afterwards, you can say, Mummy felt like this. This is how I felt when that was happening. Or just sharing what it is that you were experiencing. I think it's important that, without not putting guilt on our children in any way, that children understand that words have meaning, words have consequences, and also that you understand that we say things in temper. I say to my children all the time, we do say things in temper sometimes. Sometimes we say things when we're really cross and we don't mean them. And by doing that and having that conversation, it has allowed them to sometimes come to me when they have been in a meltdown and said some silly stuff, to come back to me afterwards and say, I didn't really mean what I said there. Now, I know they didn't, not really, I know that, but it allows them, and I will always say that to them, I understand that, and I will then validate how they feel about it. I know how it feels when you're feeling frustrated and things don't work out the way you want to, and you kick out because you're frustrated. I get it. We could have dealt with it better. We could do this next time, and you can talk to them when they're calm. This is afterwards, in the midst of the meltdown. This isn't going to go down well. It's going to probably make it worse. But by having these conversations, we're teaching them things and lessons for the next stage. I'm a big believer in having open dialogue with our children and not hiding our own emotions and our own feelings, because then it teaches them that they must hide their own. And I don't want my children to hide their feelings when they're feeling sad or angry or frustrated. I want them to talk it through with me and feel safe in order to do so. And unfortunately, in doing that, it also means that when my children have a kick off and a meltdown, and whatever that looks like, that's also because they feel safe enough to do so, which is frustrating for us as parents. So these are my thoughts and my tips, and I hope it gives you some insight. And I also hope it lets you know that you're not alone in this. And there are times in my journey as a parent when I have been like tearing my hair out and Googling and looking for things, and on YouTube looking for videos like this where other parents talked more honestly about the fact that sometimes parent as much as we adore our children, and I love my children. They're brilliant kids. They really are good people. Just like every kid's on the planet, they have their moments where they're difficult and challenging. But like I always say to my children, I also have my own moments where I'm difficult and challenging, because even as an adult, we don't get it right. And by having these conversations, and you and I and people online having these conversations as well, hopefully we can say we're not alone. We're all doing our best. And if on this occasion you didn't get it right and you're watching this because you've just dealt with it in a way that you don't feel good about, breathe. Calm, take a moment, remind yourself you're doing the best that you can, apologize if necessary, take steps to fix things if necessary, and be better tomorrow. And sometimes that's all it's about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop it a like and a comment below, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on my next video. I'll speak to you all soon. Peace.